All right, we're standing in a slightly older woodlot than what we've been standing in previously. Right now we're probably standing in a woodlot that's about 30 to 40 years post any sort of harvest or any sort of disturbance that would have initiated a new forest. No management has really taken place in here since that point. And what we've already started to see is that nature started to run its course, right? We see relatively few trees per acre relative to a 15 or 20-year-old woodlot. So we've kind of lost some of our opportunities to make earlier interventions to start removing some of the unwanted and keeping some of the wanted stems. However, we've lucked out in that this white oak has done a fairly good job of competing on its own. It's well positioned in the canopy. We would call that maybe dominant or co-dominant, meaning it's receiving light on the majority of the sides of its crown up in the canopy. So that's a good indication that this tree is healthy. It's going to respond well to management. It has the ability, with a large crown, to respond to more resources and tack on more diameter. So this is still a relatively small stem. We'd like to see these stems get into the 14-inch diameter or larger size class to really start yielding us some value or start yielding us some greater production of hard mast. So when we're performing what we would call a crop tree release, meaning we've gone through our forest, we've identified the trees that we want to maintain long term, we're going to start looking up at the crown and identifying those adjacent stems that are in competition with this crown. Standing in the edge, or on the edge, of a wooded portion of the Fishburne Forest that was recently thinned, meaning that the number of trees were taken from a high amount on a per acre basis to a lower amount. In this edge, however, there hasn't been any thinning conducted. The trees that are established here have been established and growing in competition for a long period of time. And basically this is what's at risk if you don't get into your stand early and start reducing the number of trees on a per acre basis. Basically we're sort of relegated to smaller stems that could eventually, if left under this high competition environment long enough, what we call stagnate, meaning they're going to start having their crowns recede. Some of these branches are going to start sloughing off as they get less and less light. The growth rate is really going to slow down, and we're going to really reduce the rate at which these trees can grow into something large, merchantable, and start making you some money. However, if you were to take this stand early on and you were to reduce the number of trees on a per acre basis using a thinning, you'd be accelerating the rate at which you start achieving larger sized stems. So in less time, by utilizing a thinning, you could go from that condition to something like this, where we have a large straight stem that has a decent log up to about at least 8 feet, maybe even taller. The amount of time it would take to attain a tree of this size reduces when we thin. So if we take a stand from that condition or a woodlot from that condition, reduce the number of stems, the rate at which we achieve larger trees reduces.